Hi, everyone. You're listening to the Your Number One Fan podcast, and I'm your host, Kim. I want you to think of me as your number one fan, and this podcast to be the most encouraging, inspiring thing you listen to every week. We're talking about mental health, mindset, not caring what people think, pivoting in life, being a mom, relationships, and much more. I'm so happy you're here. Now let's get into it. Hi, everybody. Today I have Claire Edwards with us on the podcast. I'm so excited. You might know her from TikTok or Instagram. She's a content creator, a wife, and a stay-at-home mom. So I know that you're pregnant. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. We're so excited. Number 2 is coming in October. And honestly, this summer is I'm so not into summer this year. I'm like,
Oh, really?
fall. I'm like looking at Christmas pictures.
No.
I am not the girl that loves being pregnant, but I'm like very
Yeah.
grateful, very excited for baby. But yeah, I'm like really excited for them to be here. I just am kind of hating my pregnant summer.
Yeah. It's funny because I was just thinking about yesterday, I was just thinking about how I was just having my son. So almost a year ago, he just turned 1. And
Congrats, by
how,
the way, he's so cute. I was just looking at
thank
your
you. Oh,
Instagram.
yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's just weird because last summer I felt like I didn't even have a summer. Like I wasn't pregnant through it, but I was like, okay, newborn phase, like what is going on? And I wasn't outside really. So this year it feels like it's going to be a little more fun at least.
Oh, I hope the summer is wonderful for you. Back to like thinking about just that postpartum haze last time, how quickly, it goes, and it's so annoying how everybody is like, don't blink, like it goes so fast,
Oh
but
my
it's
God.
so true. And like the biggest
Mhm.
difference that I'm going to implement with the second baby is like, I really don't want to share this baby at all. Like, I want for like 3 months to like fully just soak up this baby. And like, my husband's like, am I ever going to get to hold this kid? Like, I'm going to try so hard to be fully in it and like take a bunch of pictures. I like didn't take pictures like the first couple months,
Really?
like that much
Yeah.
with Goldie. And so it's so interesting, like doing it for a second time.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't think I mentioned you have a toddler. How old is she?
Yes, she's 20 months, but
Yeah,
she acts
20
like 2 year old.
months.
She is running around and so fun. She's definitely like learning words and communicating, and
Oh,
it's really fun.
wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so fun. It's funny that you just said the don't blink thing too, because when my son
Mhm.
just turned 1, I was like, everybody says that, like, and it's sad, but right now, like, I feel like I understand it. Like, I get what
Mhm.
people mean by that. But at the same time, like, I don't want to make other moms sad. So I'm like trying to think of
Yes.
it as because I really felt that like a lot.
Mhm.
I was very sad about it. So
Yeah.
I just feel like, yeah. So I just feel like it's nice to think of it as okay, like think back to the first month, then think back to the second month. Look at some
Mhm.
pictures. Like it
Yes.
doesn't go that fast. You can still like enjoy it. I don't know if that makes
Absolutely.
sense, but I was like,
I
I
think
was so bummed.
just because someone needs to say something doesn't mean you need to hear it and implement it
Yeah. Right.
necessarily.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of moms, like, you experience these crazy changes and it's such a transformative time in your life, and maybe you don't process it out loud enough, and then it comes out in ways like giving advice, but
Mhm.
it's not necessarily like great advice or helpful or like other people necessarily need to be hearing, because
Yeah.
you see your baby growing every
Mhm.
day, and you're
Mhm.
already like slightly feeling panicked that the time is
Yeah.
slipping away, and to hear someone else reiterate it, I'm almost like, you need to like write about it in your journal or like talk about it to a therapist about it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
um, I love, maybe this is why like getting into the mom stratosphere has been like, I don't really identify with a ton of the stuff that I see online, because I love to like make my own mistakes and like learn from myself.
Mm-hmm.
and there's a lot of like, the advice giving, and that's just not helpful necessarily.
Yeah.
I do think it can be done in a loving way. I just think the best, like, real pieces of advice that I've implemented into like motherhood and expectations and stuff have come from like people that I know that I trust.
Right.
That makes sense?
Right. Yeah, for sure. And I think that lends right into the question I have is I, as somebody with a very small platform, have, and just like basically just from people I know, have gotten not shamed, but like some people have shamed online, like from videos I've posted or judged or just put in their 2 cents. I cannot imagine the platform that you have. Like every video I'm sure you post, I'm sure there's at least one person that says something. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Like, does that
Oh my God.
impact you? Like, what do you have to say about that? Because I'm so curious.
First of all, like, I don't feel like I get like that much hate. Sometimes I just think
Good.
about people that are actually saying inflammatory things. Like, I'm posting the most innocuous mom stuff, and when
Hmm.
things get ripped apart, I'm like, I can't imagine if I was someone who was actually controversial
Yeah.
and the comments I would get. But certainly, like, the first time I had a video that did well, I had so much anxiety because some of the comments were like, "This is invalidating to people who don't have your experience." And it
Right.
was a
Right.
video where I was saying, like, I had just had my baby. I'd
Hmm.
had my baby, like, 5 months before, and I was like, "These are things that I expected to be worse, and
Hmm.
all I'm trying to do is to add my voice to the chorus,
Yeah.
not to tell anybody that it's easy or tell anyone that they should have kids, but rather if you're pregnant and you're really scared, might be good to hear a story of someone being like, I really love it. It's not as bad as I
Yeah.
thought it was going to be."
Yeah.
And um, so on that video, there were a lot of people being like, this is not normal. Like, you're
Hmm.
invalidating other people's experience is, I think, the number one critique anyone gets for like
Yeah.
sharing their own.
Exactly. Yeah. You can't
Um,
win.
you really cannot, and
Yeah.
it totally rocked my world. I was like so anxious for like a week.
Aw.
Like, I don't know if I like am cut out for this, but like something that makes me want to keep doing it is like seeing other creators, and we're just like all in the same boat, and like comments are crazy and
Mhm.
people are going to keep being crazy. And like if you need to take your break and like take a step away and you're caring too much about comments, then that's your personal responsibility to do.
Right.
You know, like, I have to stay tuned in with myself and be like, how much do I want to like fight back and like
Right.
be like hurt this person's feelings?
Yeah.
But it's yeah, it's just part of it.
Yeah, I'm sure. And I think that's how I found you is that video and what kind of drew me to follow you is I felt like you you're not blunt in like a negative way, but you don't like have any caveat to what you say. So like when I say something that maybe isn't the bigger opinion, maybe it's an unpopular opinion, I kinda, like, giggle or I'm like or but, like, whatever, and I felt like I felt like you are like, "You know what? This is, like, what I expected, and
Mhm.
this is so much better than it was," or, like, when you talked about your husband and your relationship and how that hasn't, like, gone to, for lack of a better term, shit, and,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
better.
I
It's
just
really is
yeah,
better.
yeah, and you're never going to win, really, with people online
Really.
especially.
And so all of like giving all the qualifiers before you say something, I think that's how people's message gets kind of buried. And like when
Yeah.
you're already like trying so hard to see it from every single angle, I think it's hard to just like say what you mean. And what
Mhm.
I've learned, I've been doing it a year, and what I've learned is like say exactly what you mean, and the people that are your people will understand. And like if people interpret you the wrong way and are like committed to misunderstanding you, then they're not your people, and that's okay. They shouldn't follow you.
Right.
But sometimes like when you're watching videos and people are like, and I don't mean this, and I don't mean this, and I don't mean
Right.
this. I'm like, just say what you mean, and it's a
Mhm.
risk you take is to be
Yeah,
misinterpreted. It sucks being misunderstood. Really sucks, especially if it's hurtful to someone else.
right.
So I do like try to stay mindful of that, but it is so hard. People will
Yeah,
always come for
yeah.
you
You
for
put it
something.
so easy, but, like, you're 100% right. I mean, it's always easier to say things than do them, but the one thing that comes to mind for me is I always feel like people post advice about things that other people are posting advice about, or, like, things we think people need to know, like, on a deeper level. So I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna start this series that's, like, mundane tips, like how to make a bottle or, like, what to expect with PJs. Like, is your kid gonna wear PJs not?" Like, you know what I mean? Like, things are so, like, silly, but that video, I can't even remember if it's on my new account. I have another one that I restarted because I have this whole new podcast and whatever, and, so long story short, I didn't include all the types of formula and all of these, like, I shook the bottle, I didn't stir it. All these
Um,
people are like, "Oh my god." So that one, and then I posted another one that I mean, maybe I was a little bit irresponsible not mentioning PPD or anxiety or anything, but I was like, if you feel sad that somebody else has your baby, like, that's normal. I always feel sad, like, watching from across the room when somebody's holding him or whatever, like, I'm not firsthand experiencing something with him. And people are like, "Well, if they feel guilty, it's PPD. If they feel like, don't tell them it's okay." And I'm like, all right, like I get that, but then that's just the spiral that you can go down. Like, and you're so right. Your people will understand. You know what I mean?
yes.
Yeah.
And the diagnosing online is so
Mhm.
rampant. Like anytime I post my
Yeah.
little like cleaning videos, everyone's like, you have ADD, you have
Oh
ADHD. And
my
it's
god.
maybe you can just like be someone who's not super type A and it doesn't mean you
Yeah.
have this and this. But I think you're so right about like the lack of specificity online
Mhm.
towards child rearing. There's a lot of like really vague statements, such
Mhm.
as it's hard but worth it. And that
Mhm.
was the big thing that really freaked me out about
Mhm.
or thinking about trying for a baby. It was like, okay, but what's hard?
Right.
And why do I not believe you that you're saying it's worth it? And y'all sound like you have Stockholm syndrome. Like the only
Yeah.
year is hard because when I'm not feeling that unconditional love that's so hard to put into words towards a kid, like it just doesn't hit home. And so like
Mhm.
that's a phrase, even though that can totally be considered true, that like
Mhm.
parenting is hard but worth it. I just like that's one of those things I think people need to say more than people without children necessarily need to hear and like take it.
Yes.
Does that make
Yes.
sense? So like
Absolutely.
saying this is, and even going from like baby stage to toddler stage, there's so much content online about how hard the toddler stage is and how like these
Mhm.
toddlers are just crazy.
Mhm.
And I want people to say exactly what they mean. Like, what is harder? Like,
Yeah.
be specific, please,
Yeah.
because we're all just trying to gather information to shape
Yeah.
our expectations
Mhm.
and be specific. So I
Yeah.
love that you took it serious. That's really cool and
Thank you.
helpful.
Yeah. I I didn't and that's the thing too, I, like, stopped doing that. So,
You're
I'm kind of yeah, I kind of am just, like I mean, that's a separate story about my content creation journey, but as a mom in it, I mean, you just have so much experience dealing with all these people. I'm like so curious how you do it, but you also just kind of alluded to pre-kids. And I know that you mentioned that you weren't always like, I'm going to be a mom, or you weren't 100% sure when you were going to want to start that. So if somebody's listening, I like to have listeners like walk away with something or like feel like they're, connected. So not only
totally.
having a kid, I think just ready for a next level in life. Like, how did you know you were ready to like start something new? And then you can be specific with, having a child. But I'm just curious if there was like an epiphany or if you were like, you're never going to be ready. So let's do it. Or what happened with you guys?
Yeah. So I am just like not a maternal chick, and I never had experience with younger kids. I was the youngest. I never babysat. There were no younger kids